What role did writing play in those early days of grief for you?
I suppose I was looking for something to help me with that great mixture of emotions. And I just started writing down scraps of poetry. I wanted the world to stop. Because he'd gone, everything should have stopped. And there's a poet who said it for you. They wouldn't be verbalising things like this, whereas a poet, it's subjective, it's not someone you know.
Finally, Mary, I wonder, can you share one final poem with us? Welcome to the Life and Loss podcast. In our last conversation, Mary shared her personal journey of grief following the loss of her husband, Eric. Today, we're exploring how she found comfort in writing, particularly poetry, and how creative expression can help us navigate loss. For many, grief feels impossible to put into words, but for Mary, poetry became a way to process emotions, find meaning, and to help others. Welcome back, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me again today. I just want to go back to the time after Eric sadly died. Yeah. What role did writing play in those early days of grief for you?
Well, it goes back even before Eric died, because I think there's a period of loss for those of us who receive a terminal diagnosis. Yeah. And it was 18 months before Eric died that we were told very definitively that it was terminal, that we would have about 18 months. And so your world turns upside down. And it was then really, because I think this is quite a difficult time. I found this a very difficult time. What are you going to talk about between you? Are you going to talk about this impending death? Are you going to look at death? Or are you going to actually concentrate on life? And what we wanted to do, we both felt this very strongly, was we wanted to concentrate on living as much as we possibly could for the time that we had.
Yes.
But on the other hand, both of us have also got privately to live with this shadow of death hanging over you. So I found that very difficult because I have this mixture, huge mixture of emotions. And so I suppose I was looking for something to help me with that great mixture of emotions. And I just started writing down scraps of poetry, trying to grasp all these emotions I was feeling. So it starts then, for me.
And well, was poetry something you've always done throughout your life, or was it something new that you did?
Oh, no. I've sort of lived with poetry ever since I was a kid and taught it for a lot of my life. So it's very much part of me anyway, so it's where I would go. I mean, other people might go to music, for example, or to some other of the arts, but I would go automatically to literature and particularly to poetry.
Yeah, and is that because you're trying to almost find words for how you're feeling or how to make sense of the situation that you're in? Well,
yes. You see, the great thing about poetry is that very often when you're plunged in these very emotional situations, you can't find the words. But what poets have done is to leave us a huge legacy when they've been trying to find the right words, because that's what a poet does. A poet has a strong emotion and they try to find ways of expressing it through the words, through the rhythm, through the music, through whatever. So it's been done for us. So I was sort of looking around for people reading poetry and thinking, yeah, that's a bit what I feel like, you know, that's captured it for me. Yeah. And also trying to capture it for myself, which of course is very, very hard.
And is there any examples of any poets or poetry that you found during that time that were particularly helpful to you?
Oh yes, I brought two short ones along. These, over a long period of time, way beyond losing Eric, it sort of sum up what I've been trying to do, I think, to get through the period of grieving and come out the other side with some sort of positivity. So this first one is by somebody, this is not sort of major poetry, major poets, but someone called Leslie Griffiths, who lives in Gloucestershire, and he wrote a poem called The Other Side of Silence, and this one has been terrific help, actually. Somewhere on the other side of silence, there's still the echo of you, which I struggle to hear to fill the empty air you once occupied. From the deep inner ear, beyond cochlea, stir up all the hearing apparatus we're used to. There's a remembered resonance of you, encouraging, chiding, reminding me of your abiding love. A sound unquenched by time's tumult, or the ever-opening space between where you are and where I am now. The space you left for me to grow into. And that line, the space you left for me to grow into, that's really very important to me, because when you lose a partner, there's this huge unoccupied space around you where they ought to be. And that's what I think you feel very intensely. And while it's empty, you feel you can't move on. Something's missing, something big is missing in your life. But if you start to think of it as a space that you can grow into, then it changes it altogether. And that's, I think, without even thinking it out, that's what I've been trying to do since losing Eric. I felt I had to reinvent myself, because I don't have any children. I'd given up my work to look after Eric in the last 18 months. Now I've lost Eric. Who am I? What am I going to do now? The reinvention has to start. And if you could begin to think of that space as a space to grow into, then it suddenly became much more positive for me. It led me to action. That's
it gives hope almost, doesn't it?
It gives hope, yes, exactly. It turns negative into something that can be positive. It's not right away, because it's in the long run, it can be positive. But there's another little poem that sort of backs that up. And this is from a poet, actually, he's a Spanish poet, Antonio Machado, but it's been translated, but it's called The Wind One Brilliant Day. The wind, one brilliant day, called to my soul with an aroma of jasmine. In return for the odour of my jasmine, I'd like all the odour of your roses. I have no roses. All the flowers in my garden are dead. Well then, I'll take the waters of the fountains and the withered petals and the yellow leaves. The wind left, and I wept, and I said to myself, what have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you? So you see what I mean. What are we going to do with the garden that's entrusted to us? What are we going to do? Just leave it to wither and die? Like the space which you can grow into, you've got to go on tending your garden. And that's something that I am still, keep trying to concentrate on. So that's how poetry has helped. Poems like that say it for me.
Yes,
They get me moving.
Yeah, and they explain the emotions you're feeling in a way that you can relate to, or give you hope and a new way of looking at things.
And they're also lessons for me. It's like someone very wise has just dropped in for a cup of coffee and said, look, what about this? This is what you should be doing. This is what you should be thinking about. Because very often people, your friends, even your close friends, just don't know what to say to you when you've lost someone. It's very difficult for them. And they wouldn't be verbalising things like this. Whereas a poet, it's subjective, it's not someone you know. And I found it immensely helpful.
Yeah. And Mary, you do lots of writing yourself as well, poetry, but also other sorts of writing too. Has there ever been a time where you've found writing or too painful and you can't bear to do it?
Yes, that period, I think it's called anticipatory grief, that period when you know that it's terminal. I was saying I found it very difficult, and I tried to write. And I did find, I thought, how can I put this? How can I put what I'm feeling? And I found a way. I found the metaphor of going out sailing, because Eric and I used to sail a lot. And so it was almost like another voyage, you know. We've been going on normal voyages before. And now we just set out on this new voyage. And so I wrote about it. I found it very painful to read as well. So I haven't brought it along. But I wrote about it in terms of a voyage. It's like you're watching the shore getting smaller and smaller. Everything you've known pixelates with distance. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where the winds will take you. All you know is that you're going far, far out to sea. But I found that helped because I could think of it in terms of a voyage.
Yes, yeah. I hope that you are finding this episode helpful as you navigate through your own grieving journey. Grief is deeply personal and often isolating. If you'd like to share your own thoughts and experiences, please comment below. And you've just mentioned all poetry you write, you don't necessarily have to share all of it. It can be private, just for yourself.
Absolutely.
Or journaling if
Yeah, it doesn't have to be poetry. I mean, poetry suits me. But I think for a lot of people, journaling can be a great help because you can then read back over it and think, oh, look at the way I've come. I've come so far, further than I thought I had.
Yeah.
Or maybe pick up something that you wrote to yourself 2 or 3 weeks ago and think, that was a good thought, I can go back to that. And another thing I find useful, I still talk to Eric, as many people do to people they've lost. But occasionally it's useful to write a postcard to him when I'm somewhere else, I'm doing something completely new. Just as I would have done if I was working abroad, which I often did. You know, sometimes I'd just send him something funny, funny postcard. And I find that it keeps the links between us, the bonds are still there. Yeah. And you can almost imagine him laughing at what you say or making comments. So I think just writing to the person that you've lost is, well, for me, I think, and for many people, I think it can be very, very useful. It can offload you. Absolutely.
I think that's such a lovely idea, and there's nothing to stop you if you're on holiday and you're thinking about that person, send them a postcard. It doesn't matter if it doesn't get read the other side, but actually just doing that acknowledges that
just
memory.
Doing the postcard, yes.
Yeah.
Or if you're going back to a familiar place where you were, the two of you, if you've got a scrap of paper and a pencil, just to scribble down your thoughts. I mean, because that's complicated, isn't it? You were here perhaps the last time with him, so you need to sort of write down. Do you remember we were here last October, you know? You were wearing that old green jumper and you know, we spilt the tea from the thermos, all that sort of thing. Yeah. You're still sharing, because it's all there in your head. Exactly. And I think it helps to keep the bonds alive. Yeah. They're not here, but there's so much part of you. 57 years I was married. I mean, how can somebody not be a part of you? So you're still talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes our brains, we can just keep going over the same scenario over and over again. And actually by writing it down, it can help take those thoughts away from your mind to...
I think you're absolutely right. We can go over and over and over it, and that can actually be quite negative. But yes, if you're able to offload it in some way, I mean, you could just talk. You could just talk, of course. You can go there and talk. But sometimes writing it down gets it off your chest better, more fully.
And it can be private as well. You don't have to share it, do you? So...
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, well, I think most of us who write poetry don't share a lot of it. You know, you share the less personal things probably, but that doesn't matter. You've expressed it. You've said it. You've written it.
Yeah. And you've got some great advice as well for special dates like anniversaries and birthday cards as well, how writing can help with those difficult dates in the calendar. And can you share some advice with us?
Yes, you see, it's interesting, isn't it, that most birthday cards and Christmas cards and so on, or very often, they have a verse inside them, don't they? So it's a sort of natural choice to do a little verse, probably rhyming, on a special day. And so I usually do one for each special day. I might not do it on the day, because I might not get round to it, or I might have done it before, I might do it after, but I write something that's a little updating, or if it's not poetry, because I haven't got I'm not into poetry that day, I just write a little bit of prose, you know, something to mark the day. Christmas particularly. It's when it comes round again, you know, what's different this Christmas. So again, it's a great offloader.
Do you think that creative outlets can be beneficial to anyone who's grieving?
Oh yes, I really do. I mean, it's so good when you suddenly find a poet who said just what you're feeling. You can't expect your friends to say that. I mean, I know they say, I know how you feel, but they don't know, and you don't think they know how you feel, and they don't know exactly how you feel. But you can always go to poetry and find that there's somebody who's felt exactly what you're feeling. For example, there's a poem by W.H. Auden called Stop All the Clocks, and it's about a death of a friend. And it actually starts, stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone. And that's exactly how I felt when Eric died. I wanted the world to stop. And it wasn't, it was going on around me. And it was all too noisy and too busy. But I felt, because he'd gone, everything should have stopped. And there's a poet who said it for you. It's a half funny poem because he's mocking it a little bit. But it's got so much that's true in it. That's how you feel. Stop everything.
Yeah.
Nothing now could ever come to good, it says in the last line. That's how you feel. You know, oh, this is terrible. The world's turned upside down. There isn't any more good left. And to find somebody saying that. So I think, interesting, I picked up a second-hand book. I'm always raiding charity shops for more poetry. And there's a book called Poems That Make Strong Men Weep.
Okay.
And it's specifically aimed at men. But there's about, 30, 40 men who've chosen a poem and said why it makes them weep. And a lot of it's about loss, obviously, and death and grieving. So there are lots of books out there like that, which are specifically for people who are looking for someone to say what they can't say for them.
And finally, Mary, I wonder, can you share one final poem with us?
Yes. I'd like to share a poem by Christina Rossetti, which I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this will know. Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into that silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I, half turning to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me. You understand it will be late to counsel then, or pray. Yet, if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad. I think that's beautiful.
That is beautiful, and a lovely note to finish on. And Mary, thank you for everything you do, for sharing your own experiences and helping others who are grieving as well. And thank you for listening to the Life and Loss podcast. If you'd like more information on our work, you can visit our website, which is forestholmehospice.org.uk. Thank you. Please remember to like, comment and share this episode to help us reach more people. At Forest Holme Hospice Charity, we offer this podcast and many other resources to support people through life's most difficult times. If our work has made a difference to you, please consider making a donation by visiting the link in the description. Thank you.